I'm a baby boomer, so in my generation, there were so darn many kids. We typically were left in charge of our younger siblings. I started babysitting at the ripe old age of 10. Yes, someone left their infant alone with me when I was 10 years old. And they were so thrilled to find a babysitter. So, you know, I spent a lot of time around little kids helping raise little kids and had a clear idea of how challenging they were. There was no mystery there. And, when you're raised with that many children around, you're a problem and you're giving other people problems. And, children are challenging. So when I had my own kids, I thought, I gave birth to, it might have been a dragon with wings that could fly, a baby tiger, and I don't know, a salamander. I don't know. They were super challenging. I remember going to a mom, an older mom. She had had nothing but boys. And I said, what's the deal here? And she said, and these were her words of wisdom. She said, oh, teach him to obey. And I was like, oh yeah, so that they don't think for themselves, so they can be a little robot. What does that mean? And what I learned about obedience is we facilitate our children to cooperate with us, and we'll call it obey, so that they learn self-control, so that when they get in other situations where they're having to navigate difficult waters, they have command of themselves and they can negotiate and navigate life, work under a boss and still hold on to their personhood, things like that. So obedience is really important. So if you haven't read The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin, I'm going to put that plug in here now. I say it and say it and say it. And it just always shocks me how infrequently people don't just go check it out, get the audiobook. She reads it herself. She's very funny. It's uplifting. She helps you identify four different tendencies that we see in people and how to communicate with them. She helps you give the words to be able to relate to someone in their tendency. Great for significant other, spouse, super for parents. I know teachers are largely have an understanding of this, a broad understanding. So um, do that. But as a side note, what I wanted to say is that when you're a sponsor, so you have to have wrestled with these things um, yourself and had some mastery. When you're a sponsor, one of the first thing I can notice is people's unwillingness to obey, unwillingness to follow through. I see the lack of resolve and I see the lack of self-control, the lack of discipline all the time. Do I care? Does it bother me? No, I chuckle. I'm a pretty stubborn soul. I get it. I've raised kids. Boy, do I get it. We're on a journey, but it's one of those things that you notice. We'll just put it that way. You notice, and like as a sponsor, I think when you know something, a private and personal thing about somebody, and you see them struggling in this particular way, rather than getting in the way, I just pray for them. And as we talk about difficult situations and maybe they ignore what I suggest, which is totally fine. We're adults, and then it doesn't go so well, and we talk a little bit more, and then, I just pray they learn. But you participate in their life, not by trying to control them, but by this form of intercession. It's a way of extending people love. And I do this all the time. People come to meetings, I know they're not going to come back. Definitely, I'm praying, I'm praying, I'm praying. They come to my mind. I no, just like to say, it doesn't happen that they don't pop into my mind, that I don't text someone, pray for them, something. Um, that's the life of a mother, and that's the life of a sponsor. just putting a plug in there for the value of being a sponsor. My great privilege. June 10th, when it came time to actively pursue the eighth step, and it's in parentheses, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all, end parentheses. I stopped dead in my tracks. I knew of quite a few people I had harmed, but I was absolutely unwilling to even consider making amends to some of them. My sponsor suggested I divide my list into three categories: those to whom I was willing to make amends, those to whom I might make amends, and those to whom I would absolutely never, ever make amends. And when I finished, I started step 9. When I finished, sorry, I started step 9 by making amends to those on the first list. The amazing thing was that as I proceeded, I found some of the names from my maybe list shifting to my willing list. And in time, even some absolutely not people appeared on my maybe list. Eventually, it became easier to make amends, even to the absolutely not people. My reward? Some renewed friendships and family ties. More importantly, an ability to face the new day without guilt, because I had owned up to my own responsibilities. Today's reminder: I will not let myself be stopped from taking step 8 or step 9 because I can't do it perfectly overnight. I will let myself be where I am today and do what I am able to do. And here's the quote: it does not matter how slowly you go, so long as you do not stop. And that's Confucius. What I see is that as we're cleaning house, things are always shifting. It's like freedom's happening. And, when we have more joy in our life, we're more courageous. And when we have some success in our interpersonal relationships where there wasn't success, we are more willing to go forward. But there's no pushing it. There's no pushing, there's no prodding. These are just waters that we have to just continue to navigate. And the Confucius saying is right. You got to put one foot in front of the other, or, when you're in the boat, you got to just keep rowing. If you want the boat to keep moving in a forward direction, you can't pause. You don't hit the pause button. So that's what I've got for June 10th. And I pray you are well this day, and that you are a blessing to yourself.